She was floating in my pool like a queen on her throne, oversized sun hat tilted just so, a smug grin on her face, and a margarita in her perfectly manicured hand. I hadn't even put my keys down. I hadn't stepped out of my car. But there she was, Karen, surrounded by strangers in flip-flops, flower crowns, and dripping pool water, blaring dance music from a Bluetooth speaker, like this was her private island. Except it wasn't hers. It was mine. And the worst part? I knew, without a doubt, that I had locked every door, bolted every gate, and left the house in total silence just 6 hours earlier. After a 12-hour shift in the ER, my mind was still foggy, running on adrenaline and burnt coffee. But when I turned into my driveway and saw balloons, flashing lights, rows of folding tables, and a 6-foot swan ice sculpture slowly dying next to my garden gnome, that fog cleared in an instant. This wasn't a casual potluck. This wasn't a mix-up or a neighborhood gathering. This was a full-blown party, a party I never approved, didn't plan, and definitely wasn't invited to. As I stepped out of the car, the bass from the music thudded through the ground like a warning drumbeat. Foam drifted lazily through the sky from a bubble machine on my deck. I stared at it all, at the partygoers helping themselves to food that I didn't buy, at kids doing cannonballs into my carefully balanced, personally maintained pool, at the man grilling on the patio like this was a rented venue, and my brain couldn't catch up fast enough. I passed a guy offering shrimp cocktail who gave me a look like I was crashing the party. Then a woman in heels holding a mimosa turned to another guest and said, "Isn't this the cutest little venue?" As if my home was a damn resort. And just when I thought I'd imagined it all, that maybe I was hallucinating from exhaustion, I spotted them, flyers tucked under windshield wipers up and down the block. Community Appreciation Luau, with my address printed in big, bold type. Then I saw her, reclining on a giant pink flamingo, sunglasses covering half her smug face, legs dipped lazily into the pool I paid to heat all winter. Karen. She waved at me like I was the guest of honor arriving fashionably late. I didn't wave back. I just walked up to the edge of the deck, staring, waiting, hoping for an explanation that didn't make me want to scream. She took a slow sip of her drink, leaned her head back, and without an ounce of shame said, "Oh, don't worry. We're wrapping up before sunset. It's just a little HOA gathering. You're part of the community, aren't you?" Her words hit like an insult wrapped in faux hospitality. My jaw clenched. "You broke into my yard," I said slowly, my voice shaking with the effort to stay civil. Karen actually laughed. No. We came through the side gate. No one touched your house. And the HOA bylaws allow for community events in shared spaces, so technically we're good. Except we weren't. This wasn't a shared space. This was my backyard, my pool, my home. I vacuumed that pool every week. I balanced the pH levels myself. I paid the electric bills and the property taxes and the heating fees. Karen swung her legs over the float and slipped them back into the water, perfectly unbothered. "You never show up to meetings," she added with a shrug. "We voted last quarter to allow pool petitions for HOA events. You should really check your emails." And then, as if to emphasize how little she cared, a man in cargo shorts handed me a paper plate with sliders and said, "You've got to try these, man. Whoever lives here has a killer setup." I handed the plate right back. "I live here." He blinked, laughed nervously, and vanished into the crowd. Karen's expression didn't shift, not even a flinch. "You had no right," I said. She adjusted her sun hat and gave me that sickening, condescending smile. "I have every right. You signed up for the HOA when you bought this house. Maybe you should spend less time being angry and more time reading the rules." Then she turned her head and yelled toward the grill, "We need more guac over here. The chips are lonely." I didn't respond. I didn't scream or curse or throw her flamingo float across the yard, though every cell in my body was begging to. Instead, I walked inside, hands trembling, chest heaving, rage tightening every muscle in my body. I shut the door gently, leaned against the fridge like it was the only thing holding me up, and stared into the void for a full minute. Then I moved. I went to the hall closet and dragged out the dusty box of home documents I hadn't touched since I moved in 3 years ago. Deed, blueprints, zoning permits. Somewhere in that chaos, I needed to find something, anything, to prove Karen was wrong. And I did. Hidden in the third manila folder was the key. The pool had been added by the original homeowner after construction and registered as a separate parcel, before the HOA had even been formed. That meant legally, the pool wasn't under HOA jurisdiction. It wasn't common space. It wasn't community property. It was mine, and mine alone. The moment that reality sank in, everything changed. Karen hadn't just thrown a party. She'd trespassed. She'd stolen. She'd lied. And she'd done it all with the confidence of someone who thought they were untouchable. She'd gambled that I'd be too tired, too polite, or too indifferent to stop her. But she didn't count on me finding that document. She didn't count on me having a second wind. And she definitely didn't count on what I'd do next. The first thing I did was get serious about proof. I installed 2 high-resolution security cameras, one watching the backyard, the other fixed on the side gate. I synced them to cloud storage and set motion alerts to my phone. If Karen or any of her bubble-blowing friends even breathed near my fence again, I'd know. Then I made a call to an old college friend who worked at a commercial supply distributor. I told him I needed the strongest industrial dish soap he could legally deliver. He asked me if I was opening a diner. I told him I was cleaning up a mess. 3 gallons arrived the next day, thick and frothy and lemon-scented. I spent the evening on my knees by the pump house, rigging a makeshift feed line that connected the detergent to my pool's auxiliary filter valve. I ran tests with water. I watched the system cycle and hiss and spin with precision. And I imagined the foam. Not just bubbles, but a rising tidal wave of soap, a party-stopping spectacle. Enough to turn a backyard luau into a full-blown evacuation. It wasn't malicious. It was poetic, symbolic. A clean slate, delivered with flair. And it would work. I just had to wait for Karen to take the bait again. She didn't disappoint. 3 days later, another flyer appeared, this time tucked into my mailbox like an invitation to my own sabotage. HOA Summer Bash, Saturday 7 p.m. Pool, food, fun. And below that, again, my address. No warning, no request. Just blind entitlement wrapped in party fonts and bad clip art. Karen had no idea that the party she was planning would be the one she'd never forget. The day of the luau arrived hotter than ever. The kind of suffocating summer heat that made even the birds quiet. Not a breeze in sight, not a cloud in the sky. The neighborhood shimmered in the still air, as if the whole block was holding its breath. I spent the morning in quiet preparation, but not for hosting. No, this wasn't about hospitality. This was war disguised as a backyard. Every lawn chair, every tiki torch, every string light had been precisely placed by Karen's rented party crew the day before. I didn't touch a single decoration. I wanted everything intact for what was about to unfold. The lawn had been trimmed, the deck power washed, the pool water crystal clear. Because when the chaos started, I wanted there to be no mistake about who had control and who never did. By mid-afternoon, I spotted her. Karen strutted down the sidewalk, wearing a blue sarong and a ridiculous headpiece made of fake flowers and glitter, dragging 2 oversized coolers behind her like she was queen of some tropical empire. Her voice carried all the way down the block as she barked orders into her phone, checking on deliveries and making sure the food truck knew exactly where to park. My driveway. I watched from the window, sipping iced tea, perfectly still. Every now and then she paused to fan herself, then waved her clipboard like a royal decree at workers setting up folding tables in my yard. More people began arriving, slowly at first, then in waves. Neighbors I hadn't spoken to in months, a few I'd never seen before. Some carried drinks, others towed kids in water wings. They strolled past my front steps like I wasn't even home. By 5, the party was in full swing. Music blasted from a pair of wireless speakers, steel drums and pop beats blending into a chaotic medley. The smell of grilled meat wafted through the air, mingling with coconut-scented sunscreen and the chlorine from the pool. Karen stood near the deep end with a wireless mic, making periodic announcements about raffle tickets and community spirit. It was all so performative, so theatrical, like she believed herself the undisputed queen of the neighborhood. I stayed inside, calm, unbothered. The cameras had captured every unauthorized entry, every delivery, every setup. But that wasn't the highlight. That would come soon. At exactly 6 p.m., I stepped out the back door, carrying a folding chair and a cooler, acting like I was just another guest joining the fun. Heads turned. People stared. One woman whispered something to her friend and nudged her elbow. Karen's expression faltered for a split second, the edges of her smile twitching. But she recovered quickly and waved me off like an uninvited cousin showing up to a wedding reception. "Didn't think you'd be here," she said sweetly, walking over with a wine cooler in her hand. "I thought you were working tonight." I glanced around, slowly setting my chair near the edge of the patio. "Figured I'd drop by. Looks like you've got it all under control." Her smile stretched tighter, her voice syrupy. "It's all about unity, you know? Bringing people together." I nodded and cracked open a soda. Absolutely. Nothing better than seeing people enjoy themselves. She turned to walk away, pleased that she thought she'd diffused the tension. But that was her flaw, always assuming a smile could erase a crime. She had no idea what I'd planned. No idea that the pool jets were set on a timer connected to my phone. No clue that 3 gallons of industrial soap sat primed and ready to go through the auxiliary filter. I waited, sipping slowly, until the moment was right. The jets roared to life. A cheer rose from the pool, as kids and adults alike welcomed the churn. At first, the foam was subtle, a light bubbling at the surface. Someone clapped, another yelled, "Foam party," as if it were part of the schedule. But within seconds the bubbles exploded into thick white foam that crawled across the water, like a monster waking from a nap. In less than a minute, the entire pool surface was hidden under a sea of froth. It spilled over the edge, rolled down the deck stairs, and slithered toward the lawn furniture like a bubbly tide. People screamed, some laughing, some in shock. A woman slipped and fell into a cupcake tray, frosting smearing across her sunglasses. A kid lost their floaty in the froth and started shouting. One of the Bluetooth speakers sparked and fizzled as foam soaked through its wiring. Karen's mic gave a shrill screech before cutting out completely. Her smile dropped for real this time. She waded through the foam, slipping, arms flailing, hair matted with soap. Her beautiful headpiece deflated under the weight of suds. She looked like a soggy piñata in a hurricane. "Is this a prank?" someone shouted. "Who planned this?" Karen yelled something about the jets malfunctioning, but it was too late. People were already making their way toward the exits, shoes squishing, laughter turning to confusion. Karen stumbled toward me, dripping bubbles and fury. "What did you do to the pool?" she hissed. I didn't flinch. "Looks like the filter needed a good clean," I said calmly, eyes never leaving hers. "These things happen when they're overused without permission." She sputtered, mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. You sabotaged your own pool. This is endangering the community. This violates HOA guidelines." I tilted my head. "You mean the guidelines you wrote? The ones no one voted on? The ones you enforce selectively? I pulled out my phone and tapped on a video. There she was, clear as day, ordering vendors through the gate, waving her clipboard like a queen's scepter. Her mouth fell open. "That's not, you can't use that," she snapped. I stepped back. "Touch me and you're adding assault to the list." Her hands dropped. She was soaked, furious, and, for the first time, quiet. The few remaining guests were already sneaking off, half-hearted apologies in their eyes, but none willing to stick around. Her power drained with every squelching step, and as she turned to retreat, I could see it in her eyes. She knew she'd lost. That night I sent the video to 3 places. First, to the county property office, with a formal complaint for trespassing and misuse of private land. Second, to the HOA mailing list, which she had foolishly exposed in a prior email. I titled it, "What You Didn't See at the Luau." Lastly, I handed a USB drive to Sylvia, my neighbor, retired attorney, and Karen's quiet nemesis. She raised one eyebrow and asked if it was finally time. I told her to bring wine to the next meeting. The meeting came quick, usually a sleepy affair with a handful of residents and lukewarm coffee. This one was standing room only. People buzzed with gossip, side eyes, and whispered jokes. Karen walked in late, very late. No clipboard this time, no fake smile, just oversized sunglasses and a folder clutched like a lifeline. She stood at the podium, cleared her throat, and tried to speak. "There's been some confusion regarding shared spaces," she began. Someone chuckled. Another voice called out, "You mean breaking and entering?" She stammered. "The pool has been used before, and no one objected, so we assumed." But Sylvia stood up, holding the deed aloft. "The parcel is separate, legally excluded from HOA jurisdiction. What you did was trespass, mislead, and lie." Karen's voice caught in her throat. Then another neighbor spoke. "She told us it was approved." Someone else added, "I wouldn't have come if I'd known." A third muttered, "I nearly broke my hip in the foam." The tide had turned. The room that once feared her now questioned everything. A vote was called, hands raised. Karen was suspended by a landslide. She didn't argue. She didn't stay. She just sat, eyes glazed, realizing that her reign was over. And when she finally got up to leave, she walked out like a shadow, fading, shrinking, irrelevant. Days passed. The neighborhood changed. The flyers stopped. The citations vanished. Sylvia held meetings in her driveway with cookies and folding chairs and real conversation. The HOA started to look like a community again. Karen's house grew quiet. Then, a for sale sign appeared. And 2 days later, a silver SUV pulled in with a magnetic decal on the side. Lucas and Associates Realty. My cousin. He called me later that evening. "Guess who I'm selling for?" he said, laughing. I didn't even need to guess. Karen moved out a week later. No farewell, no party, no fanfare. Just cardboard boxes, wilted decorations, and the silent defeat of a woman who had once ruled with a clipboard and a condescending smirk. As her car pulled away for the last time, we made eye contact for just a moment. There was no venom, just recognition. She'd played the long game, but I played it better. That night, Sylvia dropped by with a bottle of wine and 2 mismatched glasses. "To clean pools, clean slates, and neighbors who know better," she said. We toasted under the string lights. The jets in the pool hummed behind us, and the air finally felt still, peaceful, earned. The party was over, but the message remained. Don't mistake silence for submission. Sometimes all it takes is one good rinse to wash the whole system clean.